Welcome everybody to the 3D Printer Chat Show, and I'm your host Chris Garrett, and I'm here today again with Håkan and Miles. How are you doing, Håkan?
I'm doing good, thank you.
And Miles, how are you doing?
Splendid. How's everyone? Glad everyone's alright.
Excited to have us all back together, got the band back together. So today we're going to talk about filament, and there are so many filaments to talk about. I'm going to go through them in order, if that's all right with you guys.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. The first one that everybody comes across, and the one that I believe is probably Miles's favourite, is PLA, right?
Not just my favourite, the industry favourite. Let's just not make it about me.
The industry favourite. Now, talking about industry, you've been using a lot of nylon in industry.
Yeah, but it's technically not filament. I've been working for the last month for a great company called 3D Print UK. Full disclosure, they did pay me. Not to say this, but they did pay me because I worked for them. So don't sue me, any advertising board that happens to be listening or whatever. But yeah, so I've been working with a SLS nylon, which technically doesn't meet the criteria of our discussion today, but has totally changed my view on 3D printing entirely. So I guess we'll get that in an episode soon.
So I think we need to really talk about how PLA is probably the most popular for hobbyists, right? But in industry, we can't really say that it's the most used because, you know, we see nylon, we see ABS, right? When we see powders, we're seeing less and less of the PLA industrial use, I think, right?
I don't think I've seen any PLA used industrial.
We're talking about models, we're talking about trinkets, we're talking about, you know, cosplay. Because the downside of PLA, even though it's really newbie friendly, is it doesn't really react very well to practical use like sunlight and keeping it in a car even, right?
Yeah, I think the gloss temperature of PLA is like 90 degrees.
And it's made from renewable resources like cornstarch and requires way less energy to process compared to traditional petroleum-based plastics. I think that's a reason to why it's not withstanding a lot of what do you call it?
Wear and tear.
Yeah, wear and tear. That's it.
So that's actually a good thing, that it's good for the environment and it's not made out of nasty chemicals, and, you know, even actually smells good instead of like nylon and ABS. But at the same time, because it's so eco-friendly, it means it's going to break down in the environment.
Yeah, if you bury it, it will break down.
Yeah, it's going to deteriorate.
Landfill friendly, right?
Yeah, you can compost it as well.
Yeah. So that's polylactic acid, which sounds like, you know, it sounds really nasty, but it's actually, what is it, cornstarch and things like that?
Yeah, the main ingredient I know is corn, which is great. I'm a big PLA fan. I pretty much use ColorFab PLA PHA exclusively, almost.
And that's not cheap.
It's not cheap, but it's not super expensive. I just picked up one of their economy rolls, which they recently introduced. It's like 2.2 kilos. And I think I paid like £35 for it.
So that's not as bad as I thought.
Yeah.
I often use Hatchbox and AMZ if I can't get Hatchbox, because you can never find it for sale when you actually need it. But mainly because I can get Amazon Prime, because the shipping for me is the most expensive part often.
Oh yeah, you're in Canada, so everything's really far apart.
Yeah. So what's shipping like for you guys? Do you get free shipping or is it cheap?
I get free shipping from the Netherlands, yeah.
Here we have quite a lot of different places to get our filaments from, and we have from Creative Tools in Stockholm. They have a brand that is actually made here in Sweden. It costs about $25 per roll. I think that's rather cheap here in Sweden anyway. If you buy from China, you can get it for $5 a roll, and you need to pay the toll. Usually they just put $1 on the package, so the tax is not that high, but that's cheating. That's cheating the system.
Yeah, I have used no brand eBay filament, but it's touch and go with me. I stick with my go-to, which is Hatchbox. And for anything that's fancier than PLA or ABS, we've got a couple of companies here in Canada that, ship overland a little bit easier. We've got Filaments.ca, we've got Inksmith, and we've got Spool 3D. I can't think of anybody I'm missing. But again, that's not PLA and ABS because, I can get those so cheap on Amazon. So price is a major factor of why PLA is so popular as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. I would say have some cheap filament around if you need to. For example, if you're going to be 3D printing a lot of prototypes, like if you're trying to refine a design for something. Like right now, I'm working on some cases for a vape that I've been commissioned to do, and I've had to print quite a few versions of it. So I'm using quite cheap filament to print it. I don't want to use my ColorFab stuff for the 6th and 7th and 8th because I'll go through it quite quickly. So having cheap filament is good, but I really don't. I almost feel like the hassle of using really cheap filament isn't worth the jams and the nozzle cleaning and the inconsistencies. Yeah. For me, I'd rather just pay a little bit more and just leave it and not worry about it.
Yeah, and that's really coming down to valuing your time over the cost of buying the filament, right?
So Can I ask you, Miles, you use PLA for vapes?
I'm using it for a case.
Okay, and it doesn't get too hot, the case?
No, it doesn't get hot at all.
Yeah.
But what about if you leave it in the car?
I don't have a car. I'm in London.
A hot tube.
Oh, that was horrible today. Don't get me started on that.
That brings us to talk about ABS, if you don't mind, because the other end of the scale of smelliness and toxicity, I can't even say it, is acrylonitrile ABS. I can't say it. I can't say the.
You don't have to be a scientist today, don't worry.
But that really withstands to putting up with heat and wear, and you can drop it and it doesn't break. And car interiors are made out of ABS, and Lego is made out of ABS. But it's losing some shine. A lot of people are going off ABS, right?
Yep. ABS hater, loud and proud.
So why do you hate it so much? Is it because of the stink?
It smells really bad. You pretty much have to build an enclosure to print anything decent of any kind of decent size. It warps a bunch. Pretty much the only out of the box printer I know that prints ABS really well is the Up brands. I've seen Angus and Preston over at Maker's Muse and Press Reset respectively. They both have the Up box. If I was a ABS guy and if you're out there and you really, really want to print just ABS and ABS a ton, the Up machines look like they're really, really good for that because they're enclosed and things. But to me, PETG is superior to ABS because I can print it almost like PLA and it's just as strong and it's not toxic.
Yeah, the only thing with Pesci is you can't do the solvent welding or the smoothing that you can do with ABS. So that's its main downside. But Pesci prints like a stringy PLA almost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been using a lot more Pesci, and my Maker... My Prusa Mark II is actually pretty much my Pesci machine now, and it actually sticks too well on the bed, whereas ABS will curl and crack and lift if you haven't got it in an enclosure. I'm actually getting Pesci sticking so well that it's damaging my PEI sheet. So Pesci is, really cool. Have you managed to overcome the stringing on your Pesci?
I haven't printed a ton of it. I have a couple of sample pieces I have left from TCT that I'm welding together to 3D print mounts for my new Titan Aero that's coming for my Wanhao. I haven't had it stringing a lot. I'm trying to remember the brand that I've been using so I can pimp them out. I think it is. Oh goodness, it's the brand who has the. I think it's Polymaker. Yeah, Polymaker. I think their Pesci is really good. And
yeah, I use 2 kilogram spools from Spool 3D because they're local and the shipping's cheap. But that's pretty cool.
Another Pesci I know that's pretty good is off Filamentive. Their recycled Pesci.
Yeah,
is actually pretty good from everything I've seen.
Cool. So going further away from the norm and actually getting into pricier topics is the TPU and TPE, often known as NinjaFlex as a brand, but people use that as kind of a catch-all name for it. It's actually TPU or TPE, thermoplastic elastomer, which I think all printer filaments are thermoplastic, but that's cool stuff. I printed a Hodor doorstop with TPU and travel badges, for your baggage tags and all kinds of things. So have you used the Flex filaments?
I use TPU for the RC cars, like the Open RC F1. Yeah, the tires. So
cool.
I use TPU there, and it works great. Had no problems with it. Prints perfectly.
Because that's another stringy, sticky filament.
My experience with TPU, I just can't get it to print good. That's part of the reason why I've just ordered my Titan Aero that's hopefully going to come soon for a shorter filament path. I'm upgrading my Wanhao i3 with it. I pretty much was tossing it up between the Titan Aero and the Flexion extruder, which I know is a dedicated extruder for flexible materials. So if you're going to be printing a lot of flexible materials, it seems to be worth it. But it was almost a third more than the Titan Aero, and I know that I can use the Titan Aero for more things. So ended up going with that.
It's that filament path in the gap between the gear and the entrance to the hot end, and it just curls back, and especially if you're using any retraction, it can curl around and then just get a tangled mess. So a lot of people say, okay, you have to print at like 5 to 10 millimeters per second, or you have to print an adapter so that it shortens the path or cuts some PTFE tube. But there are definitely some extruders that are better for this. Lulzbot even has a dedicated flexi extruder, or whatever it's called, flexi jewelry. They have
flexi jewelry. If you're just a boss, if you're doing jewel extrusion with flexible materials, you're on X Robots level of boss. He's the only guy I've seen do that in a really James over at X Robots. Is the only guy I've seen do that in a really, really cool way.
But that's hundreds of dollars just for the extruder.
Well, he's so cool. Lulzbot sponsors him. And
he doesn't have to buy it.
He doesn't have to buy it, but he was using their printers for a while, and that was the first introduction I had to Lulzbot on his channel. He's definitely a good ambassador for those guys.
Totally, and he really uses his 3D printers. It's not like just a review and then an unboxing and then put them away. So let's cut this short. The last one that we really should talk about is
polycarbonate.
Catch-all. No, I was just going to say industrial, right?
Oh, okay.
So we've got nylon, we've got polycarbonate, we've got HIPS.
I really want to talk about polycarbonate because I have a roll of it and I never used it. So if you used it, I would love to hear your views on it.
I was just going to say the reason why I'm saying catch-all industrial is because it's all really bad for your lungs, and I don't have adequate ventilation. So I was wondering if you guys are trying it, and obviously you've got a spool and not really got much use out of it.
No, I haven't unpacked it either, so it's just laying on the shelf.
Yeah, the most I've gone to is nylon, and I tried it and it stank and it stank for days. I just think it's just not worth it. So until I get like a ventilated, like a Cubicon, and one of those kind of brands, I don't think I'm going to print anything other than the standard materials, because it's just so bad for your lungs. Your entire nasal passage just burns afterwards. I don't know if that's just me or analogies.
Now,
why don't you
Daniel,
just print it outside? You could
do that. You
could just put an extension cable and just open your window and just literally like print it outside.
I don't have a window in my 3D printing room. I have a little like washroom ventilator, and I don't have a window in there. So yeah, in summer I could print in the garage, but in winter here it gets to like minus 40 C. So.
And that's why we're not going to Canada.
Daniel, the guy that created 3D Benchy and
yes.
And F1,
big fan,
and RC, he prints with nylon, and he prints with PETG, he prints with polycarbonate and polypropylene, and he does that all the time inside his office, and he doesn't have that much air conditioning going on there at all, and he's been doing that for years.
We'll have to get him on the show. I'll have to ask him about it.
You should. I go there every now and then to see him, and I can't actually smell all the plastics there when I go in. So he needs to have some kind of ventilation, but it's not that much. I couldn't see any ventilation that was turned on anywhere in the office.
So if you could only choose one filament type, what would it be? Start with you, Håkan. Which would it be? You're only allowed to use one filament.
Okay, I'm not going to say PLA because I know Miles is going to say that. So I'm going to go with PETG because it has the ease of use like the PLA, and its characteristics of ABS. So yeah. PETG.
Yeah. So I agree with you. So Miles, are you going to make it?
I'm going to go
full
with
house?
I'm going to go with PLA PHA from Colorfab, man. Those Dutch guys got it down.
You're just an addict. That's just.
I don't care if I'm addicted. Okay, I don't have a problem. You have a problem. Those guys.
I do have a problem, but I'm addicted to coffee. I haven't tried the coffee PLA yet.
Their stuff is a bit more expensive, but it is quality, and it does go on sale quite a bit.
Cool. So there you have it, everybody listening. PETG, and PLA, just because Miles is weird.
Hashtag paid show. Hashtag sell out. Hashtag something.
Send Miles memes. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Miles and Håkan, for joining us again today. Please do like us, give us a review, share with your friends. Most of all, listen out for the next episode. Thanks, everybody.